send people to visually demonstrate their total separation from society. The fact that they're not going to live among us and will never live among us. It is harder to communicate with. It is harder to apply pressure to individuals who are inside of that prison because of its separation, again, from society.
President Donald Trump has sent his budget to Congress, and he's requested a $40 billion cut to health care, or about one-third of its budget. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says the department is working with DOJ to do its part.
We streamlined the agency. We got rid of the redundancy, and that's how we save that money. We're not getting rid of any critical research, and we're not getting rid of any of the programs that are critical to Americans' health care. There's probably about $159 billion worth of fraud that has not been detected, and we are using AI with the help of Elon.
The Newark Liberty International Airport mess is being exacerbated by air traffic controllers who took so-called trauma leave of up to 45 days to cope with the stress of equipment failures. At least 5 air traffic controllers have taken the time off under the Federal Employees Compensation Act. The law was designed to allow federal employees who suffer a traumatic injury on the job to take time off to recover while receiving 100% pay. Retired Army Black Hawk helicopter pilot Lieutenant Colonel Darren Gobb says these controllers should know that stress comes with a job.
Right, yeah, we can't have people just walking off the job, and this was not that big of a deal as far as the stress on the individual. ATC stress is normal, they know that. But they're trained for even ATC 0 scenarios where they lose systems and have to operate off of different means. They know this can happen. They're trained to deal with it when it happens, but to be able to turn around and say that that brief period of time caused so much stress that now they need to take 45 days off and make the problem even worse when the hiring practices and the number of people in ATC are already stretched so thin. We just can't afford to do that. We need to hire better people who are capable of handling even that limited additional stress over that short period of time.
Time is running out for you to get a real ID, but AFN's Chris Woodward spoke to one organization that hopes you won't get one.
A Real ID has a gold star in the upper right corner of the driver's license. Beginning Wednesday, May 7th, the federal government says U.S. travelers must be Real ID compliant in order to board domestic flights and access certain federal facilities. Now, the push for this began in the weeks immediately following the 9/11 attacks, and to help get the word out, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem recently put out this video about Real ID and the May 7th deadline.
These IDs keep our country safe because they help prevent fraud and they enhance security. Please do your part to protect our country. Go today and don't delay.
Twyla Brace of Citizens Council for Health Freedom has been speaking out against Real ID for years. She says you don't need Real ID to fly.
But it will be easier if you have a document that the TSA finds acceptable, and that will include your passport.
Brace believes that Real ID could lead to a future administration having what she calls a China-like social credit system.
Access to medical care, getting a marriage license, buying guns, anything that the Secretary of Homeland Security decides it has to be required for, it will be required for.
I'm Chris Woodward.
Vice President J.D. Vance says Democrats do have a leader, but it's not a Democrat.
I think to the extent the Democrats have a leader, Donald J. Trump is the leader of the Democratic Party.
Against him
because they're just against everything that he does. I'm not too concerned about 2028 because in the world that we actually live in, where they're just anti-Trump about everything, the politics of 2028 will take care of themselves.
More news online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty P.
In order to become godly men, young boys need to be shown what it takes. That's why Men of Honor exists. It's a privilege to teach boys age 7 to 17 the necessary life skills they'll use the rest of their lives. From 5:30 to 7:30 every Tuesday night from June 3rd to the 24th at the AFA campus, they'll learn basic craftsmanship, yard maintenance, and much more. It's free, and that even includes the food. Find out more about Men of Honor today at afa.net/events.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the program Today's Issues here on the American Family Radio Network for this Tuesday, May the 6th, 2025 live radio show here. And Ed Battagliano joins me. Good morning, Brother Ed.
Good morning. I'm mostly alive.
You're mostly alive?
Yeah, sure.
So how do you gauge that exactly?
It depends how well I sleep the night before.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So how many fingers am I holding up?
3 fingers. Well, I stayed up a little later than I should have watching some hockey last night. And then I got up early this morning. And so I'm kind of cruising on like 5.5 hours, 6 hours of sleep.
So you're not responsible for what you say?
I'm responsible. I just hope I can remain responsive.
All right, Chris. Good morning, Chris Woodward.
Good morning. I watched baseball.
All right.
You watched baseball.
I did.
And Ray Pritchard. What'd you watch, Ray?
Did I? Okay. We were watching some reruns of some show last night. There's basketball, right? Aren't we in the playoffs?
Yes.
The NBA playoffs is a big game. I haven't seen I don't think I've watched a minute of the NBA this year, but I know that there was some big game last night between the Knicks
Well,
and
the Knicks beat the Celtics in game 1 of the series.
Wasn't that didn't they come from behind in a
I was
overtime?
watching hockey.
Yeah, they did, like 20 points behind.
Yeah.
Wow.
Here's the thing about it is the NBA, they play 7 months to eliminate 4 teams in the playoffs.
Pretty close.
I looked it up one time and did the math because Major League Baseball gets the knock because, the season's just so long. It's 162 games. And I looked it up and did the math, and the NBA season is actually longer than Major League Baseball, due in part to Major League Baseball wrapping up its postseason in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And in the NBA, like the playoffs start in April, and it might be almost July by the time
same
you have
thing
the
with
finals.
hockey now too. Hockey and basketball play the same number of games, 82 games, and their playoffs both start in April and end sometime in June, sometimes late June.
All right.
It's nutty.
All right. Well, again, thanks for listening to the program, everybody. Ray, give us a good word from the Bible this morning.
Okay. Of the questions people ask pastors, the number one question, I think, of Christians, church members is always some variation of, Lord, what do you want me to do? How can I know God's will for my life? I did a personal survey once of all the questions that people asked me over a 6-month period when I was in the pastorate in Chicago. And there were hundreds of questions and comments, but 90% of them, as I looked at it, were some variation of, how can I know what God wants me to do? Well, I ended up writing a couple of books about that. Don't buy my books, folks, because I'm going to tell you the bottom line right here. Skip all that. I'm just going to tell you the bottom line right here. You don't need to read the book. Just take this one verse. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. That's Psalm 119, 105. Know these two things, and you will be able to do God's will for your life. Number one, God's will comes from God's word. If you want to know God's will for your life, read the Bible. The Bible is a book of God's will. It'll tell you who God is. It'll tell you what God commands. It'll tell you what God forbids. It'll give you clear guidance for the decisions you face. So number one, get yourself into the Word of God. And the more you're into the Word of God, let me rephrase that. The more the Word of God is into you, the more the Bible becomes a part of your life, the clearer it will become what God's will for you is. And the second thing is this: thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. It's the picture of a man going in the deepest of darkness, in a dangerous forest, and there's a path that leads him to safety, but it's dark and he can't see. But as long as he has a lamp in his hands, the light shines and he can move forward. But ask yourself a question. If it's really dark and you got a lamp, how many steps before you can see? You can see usually one step. Step into the light God gives you, and the light moves forward. What is God's will for you today? God's will for you today is to get up and serve Him with all your heart and all your soul, and to serve Him with great joy. Take the next step that God puts. And you know, Ed, what our problem is, I don't want to know the next step. I want to know 5 steps down the road.
That's right.
I want to know what's coming around the curve in the path, right?
So you can prepare yourself for it. I remember a preacher saying one time when you were talking about taking a step, you need to be walking. Is he said it's easier to steer a moving car. And I always remember that. That goes back from the early 80s. So you don't want to keep your car in park. You want to be active for God with the word in your heart, and then God will tell you what the next step is. And sometimes it's a surprise, right? Sometimes it's unexpected, what God asks you to do. And sometimes it goes right along with your gifts and your calling, and it seems to make sense. But I like that. The word will help you know the will of God.
Look, get in the word, and then get up every day and take the next step that God puts in front of you. Because you know what, Ed? There's always a next step in front of us. Our problem is sometimes we don't want to take it, right?
Yeah.
We want some kind of guarantee. Get in the word and take the next step. If you're in the word and you're taking the next step in front of you, God will lead you from where you are to where he wants you to be.
Amen.
That is the most important thing I know about
good.
knowing and doing the will of God.
That is good preaching. Thank you for that. Now, is that something that folks can find on Keep Believing, your website? Tell our folks about your website.
Absolutely. I've got a whole sermon on this called How to Know the Will of God. If you come to keepbelieving.com, just come to Keep Believing, find that little search bar there and just type in God's will. You'll get a ton of stuff.
I've read that. I've read your book on that. You have it's like in PDF form, isn't it?
Well, we've got it in PDF form. You can also, it's in print version from Crossway called Discovering God's Will for Your Life. And then we've got a little booklet, which may be the one you see, called
that's it.
5 Keys to Discovering God's Will. And that's available free from keepbelieving.com.
There you go, folks. Check that out.
Amen. Well, Chris, is America living up to God's will?
No. And that's
we need to do some repenting, don't we?
We do. And also, it would be good if people got, the swift kick in the pants they need in churches and not bullet points on 7 ways on how to have a great week or all that other stuff. There's a culmination of reasons.
You went right for the heart of the issue.
Yes. There is a reason why we have problems. And we do need to, as Ray recommended, get in the Word. The Word encourages me because oftentimes I have to deal with bad things and bring them in. This one's not so terrible.
There are life choices we make, Chris. You can deal with happy things or you can deal with sad things.
Very true.
Well, he is a newsman.
Yeah.
So he's going to be limited on the number of
He sees the dark side of mankind on a regular basis.
I'm going to get Brent to record me going, now it's time for doom and gloom. And, we'll bring
All right,
it
Chris,
in.
what's our doom and gloom?
All right.
To lead off with.
Well, this one's not so terrible, but it is something that has upset some people, including Trump voters. The Trump administration is offering to pay $1,000 to illegal immigrants to return home voluntarily. In other words, illegal immigrants are being offered $1,000 U.S. to self-deport. Some people are not happy with this due to the large number of illegal immigrants in this country, but in a soundbite we can play here, we've got DHS Secretary Kristi Noem saying this is actually saving us money. Clip 2.
We spend about $17,000 arresting, detaining, and deporting an illegal alien right now today. If we have the opportunity to purchase a plane ticket and send someone home with a stipend like this, it saves us thousands and thousands of dollars. And it also is a much safer situation for officers and for those in communities.
All right, so where have we heard this idea before? I think we heard it from me.
I'm Ed. Brother Ed.
I've been saying this for several years. Of course, President Joe Biden didn't listen, and I'm sure
he paid them to come in.
Yes, that's right.
Everybody who can come across the border, we give you $1,000 and free medical insurance.
Free medical care. We'll educate your kids.
Right. Y'all come.
Gift card to your local fast food place. No, I always thought this was a great idea. Now, obviously, the Trump administration wasn't listening to me, but this is a great idea because once you make it clear that that border is going to be shut down and that ICE is coming for you, all right, then what you do is you offer people this a stipend. I think that's the way she described it. And many will self-deport because they realize we're going to get caught anyway, and we're going to get sent home with nothing. Mm-hmm. This way, maybe you have 2 or 3 people, 4 people in your family, and you go back to a country like El Salvador or Venezuela with $3,000 or $4,000 in your pocket, so to speak, or
and you get robbed.
To it. Yeah, maybe they can have a bank draft or something. I don't know, but anyway, that is going to be, I think, the best way to do it. And then for those who stubbornly want to stay, ICE will find you. Anyway, I'm just glad I could help.
Yeah.
I'm just glad I could.
$1,000. I don't think that's going to make much difference, but the offer is there.
Oh, the negativity, man. Well, actually, I suggested more, but
so you think an illegal person is going to read a news flash and say, "Hey, hey, get the kids together. We're going back to Guatemala."
Well,
we're going to get $1,000 a person.
Look at it this way, though: if you think you're going back anyway, and you can get that money safely to Guatemala,
I know, but
that money will go pretty far in Guatemala.
That's very true.
Buy a herd of goats.
Anyway, what's your next story, Chris?
All right.
Wait, Ray had comment.
Yes.
Oh, okay. No, I just wanted to ask a question. So is this $1,000 a family or $1,000 a person?
I believe it's $1,000 a person. I'm going to double check because we do
so
have
if
it
you've
on our
got some
website.
huge family.
There you go.
Know, eight or 9, 10. Ed, that's a pretty good piece of change.
When you go into a country that's not very developed.
Yes.
The department said it has already paid for a plane ticket for one migrant to return home to Honduras from Chicago and said more tickets have been booked for this weekend next. So some people are taking Ed up on his idea.
Okay, Debbie Downer, what are you going to say about that?
I think it's a gimmick.
Anyway. It is a gimmick.
Well, yes, it's a gimmick, yes.
Well, I mean, $1,000, whether or not it's to one person or per family, that is a drop in the bucket compared to what
$5,000, they'll start. You might start get something signed
I mean, like
up.
Biden was putting them up in 5-star hotels in Manhattan.
For $5,000, Tim, I'll self-deport.
Bada boom.
Boom. I'm out of here. $5,000 and I am gone.
Mic drop
back
for Ed.
Italy.
For $5,000, I'll self-deport.
I will go back to Wales where my people came from.
All right.
All right. So the other story relates to illegal immigration, and I can do this in a couple of ways. CNN is being ridiculed, mocked, hammered.
That's disappointing.
On social media because one of their reporters, through the help of a translator, did ask a Mexican drug cartel member how he felt about Donald Trump calling him and other cartel members terrorists. And I can play this audio. It will have a man speaking Spanish, to which we can come out of it, and I will translate what he said because I've got the transcript here.
Wow, I didn't know you could do that.
See. Okay.
So what's the point in hearing it?
Well, okay. Point taken.
Fist bump there, man. That was good.
So I'm going to play the soundbite because it does begin. It's 19 seconds. It's going to begin with the CNN reporter speaking in English and phrasing the question, to which you'll get his answer in Spanish, and I'll come out and say what he had to say. Clip 3.
I mean, according to the Trump administration, you are a terrorist. I mean, the cartels have been labeled a foreign terrorist organization. What do you make of that?
Está fea la situación, ¿verdad? Está fea la situación, pero pues de todos modos tenemos que comer.
What's your message to Donald Trump if he's watching this?
Mis respetos, él tiene que.
You got. Did Darth Vader invade our country?
Yeah.
Is that what happened here?
He was definitely illegal.
You're going to be shipping him off?
That was a live report.
Where did we send Darth Vader?
Right. All right. So she asked him.
You have failed me for the last time, Amanda.
I found your lack of faith disturbing. All right. So she said, "What do you make of the situation?" And he said in Spanish, "Well, the situation is ugly, but we have to eat." And she said, "Well, what's your message to Trump?" He says, "My message with respect to the president, according to him, he's looking out for his people. But the problem is the consumers are in the United States. If there weren't any consumers, we would stop." In other words, the people are buying our product. We're a business.
Yeah. Okay. So is that all he said?
That's all. Yeah, we ended up bringing it down because the rest of it was in a language
most people don't know, and that's fine. But I do have some audio here from Caroline Levitt responding to the fact that CNN would sympathize and ask questions to a Mexican drug cartel member. Clip 4.
Well, it was fascinating to me, Sean. I was actually scrolling on Instagram when I came across this interview, and it stopped me in my tracks, not just because they sat down with a member of a Mexican cartel that is now designated as a foreign terrorist organization by the United States government, but because of the nature of the questions of this notorious foreign terrorist. It was a softball interview giving a platform to a notorious drug cartel that has killed American citizens. I thought it was quite despicable. But again, this is just another reason why the trust in the legacy media is at an all-time low amongst the American public.
Listen, I understand the idea that the drug cartel kingpin, whoever he was saying in terms of the customers in the United States. But it's not like Americans started off by pounding on the door of drug cartel members who were, going to their shift at the local factory and demanded from them drugs. They were getting people hooked on drugs. And so there is blame on the cartel side and the drug dealer side. This is, listen, how many episodes of Cops do you need to see? I mean, they offer drugs to kids to get them hooked, and then they have permanent customers. So, yes, people are buying drugs here, but it's not like the cartels are blameless in this. And in any case, the only way to stop it is to try to cut it off at the source. And I agree with what the president does in designating these cartels as terrorists because they don't care how many Americans die. And so the fact that CNN interviewed to get their perspective is ludicrous.
Yeah. It really shows you kind of the mindset behind CNN, especially, and MSNBC. And also it gets to a bigger problem in our country and really the world. Nothing you do is ever your fault. It's always something else. There's no self accountability.
Ray, I mean this. Bottom line, it's human beings are infected with the sin virus, and that kind of spreads to the community, and there are dealers and there are purchasers and there's all kinds of things wrong, but government has the responsibility, according to Romans 13, to punish evil doing and to uphold what is good, and I think that's what President Trump is trying to do here.
Well, it is a problem of supply and demand, and as you said, the problem is inside the human heart, right? And there's reasons people in situations turn to drugs, but that's not really what we're talking about here. We're talking about the drug dealers who've turned this into a multi-billion-dollar industry and are doing everything they can, not just to sell to people who want it, but to entrap young kids, teenagers in a lifestyle of drugs, because when they trap them that way, they have them forever. It is a corrupting enterprise, and God bless Donald Trump for doing anything he can do and everything he can do to crack down on the drug dealers.
They used to call them drug pushers when I was growing up.
That's a better phrase.
Yeah, it's a better phrase. They were always encouraging people. Like this drug dealer, if Americans stop buying, he's going to go get a shift at the local Chipotle. I mean, come on. They are going to try to make sure that lucrative business that preys upon the weaknesses of human beings, like they're not going to try to increase their sales. It's a corrupt business like any other business. It has a model, and that model includes getting new customers and keeping old ones.
Look, the drug trafficking and the prostitution and the sex trafficking, it all goes together.
Right.
It is wicked. And, I hear people throw around the phrase "from the pit of hell," sometimes a little casually. If you want to find an industry that is truly born from the pit of hell, it is the illegal drug industry and the drug pushers.
Yes.
Let's do whatever it takes to get them out of this country to protect our children and the most vulnerable people among us.
Let me just toss this other thing in there because this really fries me. Okay, these
I don't know
drug
about fries and drugs. Are, I don't know if you want to change your
I don't
word.
know if
Yes,
that's a good
okay.
mix.
Okay.
This really frosts me.
There you go.
How's that?
That's better.
These drug cartels, they kill cops.
Yeah.
They cut people's
Yes.
heads off.
Yeah.
They terrorize communities. They bribe judges and officials in Mexico and anywhere they can. When they take over apartment buildings in Aurora, Colorado, they terrorize people. So this guy makes it seem like, listen, if y'all just stop buying, we will gladly stop selling.
Right.
These are criminal enterprises. They don't care about the consequences. They don't care who dies, and they don't care who stands in their way, and that's why the president's called them terrorists.
So in case anybody wonders about where we stand, we hate these people.
Right.
We hate what they do. We hate
Yes,
the evil
I hope
they're
they
doing.
get saved. That could happen. I don't want
Yes,
I
and
don't
it
want them to
has.
die in their sins, but
Right.
If anybody's ever seen a family affected by drug addiction,
right,
Yeah.
your heart breaks and you just see the pain that it causes. And oftentimes it ends in tragedy,
Yeah.
with anyway, it's something we need to work on from both sides. The people who are buying the drugs and some of them addicts, a lot of them addicts, and then the people that are selling it inside the country. So,
and by the
inside our
way,
country.
I do want to make sure our listeners understand. I think our country is going to have to take time and money and make available to people the help they need if they're addicted. I am not callous towards their suffering. A lot of times when these people become addicts, they need help, and our country's going to have to help them, even though it's their fault for getting addicted. So I don't want anyone to think that the kind of harsh words towards the suppliers indicates that. Listen, like I said, I hope these drug dealers all come to Jesus, and good people need Jesus just as much as bad people. We all need Jesus. So I don't want anyone to misinterpret what I'm saying. But for CNN to air this, that just goes to further demonstrate the absolute corruption of the mainstream news media to even entertain an interview with someone like that and then to air it is painful to listen to.
All right, let's go ahead and take our break right here.
Sermon time's over.
When we get back, well, it was a good one. We get back, we got more happy.
More bad news.
More happy.
I do have some happy things. So stick
Good.
around.
You got some
good.
happy news?
I'm happy to hear that.
All right, we'll be back momentarily with more of today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Stay with us.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
One day, a very rich man came to a friend of his and told him that he was ready to go on vacation. His friend was a contractor, and he gave the man some plans for a house he wanted built while he was on his vacation. The rich man's friend said that he'd be happy to build it, that he would have it completed when the rich man returned from his vacation. The rich man told the contractor not to spare any expense and to build it the best he could, and he'd pay him well. Well, soon after the rich man had gone, the contractor began work on the house. From his experience, he knew that the building was going to run into quite a large sum of money. He began to think about how much money he was going to make. Then, slowly, an idea entered his mind. Why didn't he use some inferior material on the inside structure of the house? I mean, his rich friend wouldn't know the difference, and it'd be 4 or 5 years before the material showed up. So the builder ordered second-grade material to be used in the structure of the house. After a few weeks of work, the contractor saw the building begin to take shape. He thought about how much more money he was going to make since he decided to use the second-rate material. Then, one day, he began to think about how much more money he could make if he used imitation material in finishing the house on the inside and on the outside. He could get some material that looked like first-rate stuff, but would cost considerably less than the best material that the rich man had ordered. The more he thought about that, the better he liked the idea. After all, the rich man had plenty of money, and he was completely ignorant as far as building knowledge went. So he finished the house with inferior material. Soon the rich man returned from his vacation. He called his friend the builder and asked about the house. His friend told him that they had just finished the house and that he would come by and get him if he wished to look it over. The rich man said that he would. Arriving at the new house, the builder began to point out the fine points of the building. He explained to his rich friend that no expense had been spared, that everything in the building was first-rate material. Telling his rich friend what the total cost ran to, he explained that the best materials had run the cost up as opposed to other homes which look similar to this one. The rich man said that he understood and that he had expected to pay more. Then he surprised the builder. "John," he said, "we've been friends for a long time. I've looked for some way to express my love and appreciation for you and your family. I'm getting on in years, and I wanted to do something for you before I die. When we get back to the house, I'm giving you not only a check for the house you have built, but the keys and the deed as well. You see, you built it, John, and now you can live in it." Well, that's the way life is. We build them, and then we have to live in them. That's the reason we should be careful about what we build. You see, there's very little worse in this world than living in a rotten house.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
In him we were also chosen as God's own, having been predestined according to the plan of him who works out everything by the counsel of his will, in order that we, who were the first to hope in Christ, would be for the praise of his glory. Ephesians chapter 1, verse 11 and 12.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. I'm Tim Wildman with Ed Vitagliano and Chris Woodward and Ray Pritchard. Hey, we are going to the Holy Land in March, and that's March of 2026. Be our 20, I don't know, somewhere between 25 and 30, about 27 or 28th trip to Israel, and we are excited about it. The dates are, we've got the dates, we got the price, we got the itinerary, we got the pictures. We got everything available at our website. So if that's something you wanted to do, go to the Holy Land, and you want to go on our tour, then check it out. That's March in 2026, like in 10 months from now, 10 months or so from now. That's if you want to find out more information, go to wildmangroup.com. WILDMON group.com. WILDMON.group.com. wildmangroup.com. Also, we have information there on the trip that Wesley and Walker are leading, which is the Footsteps of Paul.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah. The Footsteps of Paul tour, which is mostly Greece, places mentioned in the Bible, Paul's
Right,
journey.
missionary journeys.
Yeah. So that's there. That information on that tour is available too. If you want to do both those tours, you can do that. We've arranged for people to do that. I'm talking about because they're back to back. So again, the website for all the information is WILDMON group.com, and we are talking about our Holy Land trip in March of 2026.
WILDMON, Wildman
Group.com.
All right. So that would be a 2-week. So if you want a 2-week visit, focusing on the Bible, you could do Israel and the footsteps of Paul back to back.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So check it out at that website. Chris, what's your next story?
Well, I promised I would have some good news.
You promise?
Yes. This is me. Promises made, promises kept.
Okay.
I'm going to coin that phrase because nobody ever uses that. But this is all the more reason why if you're a person of faith and you're told you can't do that, you should consider legal assistance. And I say that because an elementary school teacher in Utah will be able to have her prayer chain for herself and other teachers there at her school in Utah, thanks to help from attorney Keisha Russell at First Liberty. In this clip I'm about to call for, Keisha explains to AFN what happened. Clip 6.
Taryn Israelson wanted to post a sign in the lounge that just said, hey, if you want prayer, please text me and I'll add you to my prayer chain. And she was told by the principal she couldn't do that. So First Liberty wrote a letter on her behalf explaining the law to the district, basically that if they're going to allow other people to post things in that break room, that they cannot tell Taryn she can't post anything religious. And so the district said they were going to investigate, look into it, and ultimately they said that they are going to put a bulletin board in that break room and allow the employees to post any private messages on that bulletin board. So that is an acceptable response for us and for Taryn, and so we were able to settle it without litigation.
Now, I bring this in because oftentimes, too often I would say, people get a letter or they're told by their employer, a person of faith is, you can't do this. It's not how we do things. You're not allowed, whatever. And they go, oh, okay. Or they think, well, I'm never going to be able to win. This is going to take too much time. I can't afford it. There are a number of law firms out there. First Liberty is one of many examples that will help people in this situation. And, this is in Utah. It's not California or Illinois or Massachusetts. There's a lot of people of faith in Utah, and it just goes to show that even local governments will try to tell you things, and they're not right, which is why you need to get an attorney.
And sometimes they're ignorant about what the law says. And Ray, I mean, as far as I know, the way the law reads is that if you have a bulletin board that's only school stuff, okay, nobody can post anything that's personal or outside of work. But if you allow people to post movie night, they got to be able to post something.
If
Christian
you're going to
if they
say, come to my yoga class, or here's a dog walking class, right? Or learn how to play the ukulele, fine. then along with the ukulele, we ought to be able to say, would you like somebody to pray for you and with you? That's perfectly legal. And I'll tell you what encourages me about this is that sometimes all it takes is a concerned person, a concerned citizen, a concerned parent, a student, somebody to speak out. Somebody spoke out, contacted First Liberty. They wrote one letter, and one letter solved the problem, avoid the expense of a lawsuit. I think if more people would just speak out, we would see more victories like this around the country. So this is, Chris, this is some good news from Utah.
Well, yes. and I'll say this too, that the early decisions in 1962 and 63 regarding school, prayer in school and the Bible in school, there were some Supreme Court cases before that, but this has been a long battle to get religious liberty restored in part in our public school system. And to your point, Ray, it is because Christians didn't just sit there and take it, and because of law firms, Christian law firms that will often take these cases for free, pro bono, and groups like ours that mention these stories on American Family News, or sometimes we'll put out action alerts through AFA Insider so that people start to call, they start to stand up for their rights. that is how we've started getting more clarity on the religious liberty front. In August, we're going to have the Truth for Youth Bible campaign again. A lot of people didn't even know that a student giving a Bible to another student was legal until people stood up for the constitutional rights they still have. And so that's part of why we exist, is to educate, equip, and activate Christians to get involved in their culture.
All right, you're listening to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. You guys think we're going to go to, we humans are going to go to Mars soon?
I wouldn't say soon, but at some point we will.
I think it's possible that we might land. I'm just going to be honest. I like science fiction. I'm just not sure that that's possible to pull off with the cost. It is so far to get there. And, once people land there and start trying to set up a compound, there's no rescue like Elon Musk did with the folks, the 2 astronauts that were stranded in space. You're just there on Mars. I think it's.
All right, the reason I brought this, I'd like to raise thoughts here of the reason I brought this up. Elon Musk wrote in a post on his social media platform X in mid-March that a SpaceX Starship, that's his company, will depart for the red planet Mars at the end of 2026, carrying Optimus, Tesla's humanoid robot. So a humanoid robot's going up to go into. You go over to Mars. You go up to Mars.
Well, both. You go up and over.
Okay, I didn't know.
You got to get up, and then
are you going down to Mars? Is Mars down south?
Turn right
in the solar system. I don't know.
Turn right.
Turn right. When you see the moon,
turn
take
right. Hard right.
No,
take
wait.
Right.
You get to Jupiter, you've gone just a bit too far.
Have I got this right?
Yes.
Anyway,
turn on Siri and just follow the Siri direction.
If you go to Venus, you've gone too far.
Yeah.
That's right. Around. Venus is the wrong. You've turned in the wrong direction.
Turn left. Listen,
right, so,
I will say this.
Hold on, let me finish this. Okay. And then, so Musk predicted that if the missions go well, humans could start landing on Mars as soon as 2029.
Wow.
Although 2031, he said, is more likely.
Okay, yeah, I think it. Like I said, I think it's possible for humans to land on Mars.
Right.
But in terms of colonizing Mars, now I will say this. If they find a way to be able to extract water, if they find that there is still water on Mars and they find out a technological way to extract water, that is one of the huge obstacles to having human colonies on Mars, is having
so there's only
source
so
of
much
water.
Dasani you can put on a.
That's exactly right.
On a spaceship.
You can't run out of water or oxygen.
Right.
By the way, Musk is he must be a Transformers fan, because the name of their robot
Optimus.
is
yeah
Optimus
Go
Prime.
ahead, Ray. What are you going to say?
I mean, it's a crazy idea. First of all, don't doubt that Elon Musk and his people are going to send the robot up there. Maybe people are going to go. But Ed, that word colony, that's
Yes.
That's like a word from science fiction, a colony on Mars. So, Ed, would you consider getting a timeshare on Mars?
No, absolutely not.
Never get
First
out.
of all,
we can make you a deal now today.
First of all, I don't even want to move to Minnesota.
Would
by
you
the way,
self-deport to Mars?
no.
right.
And by the way, someone who's listening texted, and he said, "Turn right at the Dollar General."
There you go.
And you're on your way to Mars. Yeah. So, listen, you don't want me. I'm not the kind of person who thinks big like Elon Musk. I guess if there's anyone who can figure out a way to do it, he will. Mm-hmm. And maybe there's supplies of minerals there. But see, that's all those obstacles have to be conquered and overcome. If there are minerals on Mars, you have to figure. You can't put them on a transport ship and then you get them to the U.S. or you get them. What are you going to have bases on on the moon.
Is Amazon? Will Amazon deliver to Mars? I mean,
how do you make the minerals
two-year
pay off
delivery
if you're going to do that? And so maybe 100 years from now you can figure out technological ways to do that. But I won't be here.
It's very interesting.
Dear Elon,
we're talking about space.
Ed Vitagliano says, no way, Jose.
Yeah, visionary Ed Vitagliano says,
you ain't doing squat.
Call me back in 100 years.
Right.
It's interesting that we started talking about space because that's where I was going next. This July 12th, as a matter of fact, the Ark Encounter in northern Kentucky will host 3 of America's astronaut heroes. One of them was
Katy Perry?
No, she's not going to be there. But Captain Barry Wilmore, who spent far more time stuck in space than Katy Perry ever did, he's going to be one of the astronauts there, as is Colonel Jeffrey Williams. He made many trips to space over his career. And then General Charlie Duke. He's one of the men that walked on the moon. There's only like 4 guys still with us that walked on the moon. And I've got some audio here from Ken Ham on American Family Radio talking about the Ark Encounter and this event that they're branding the Astronaut Encounter. Clip 9.
I met Barry many years ago, and I've spoken with him in Mexico, and he's been involved in Christian missions of getting Bibles to people in the Amazon and speaking in prisons around the world and speaking for Answers in Genesis, speaking here at our conferences. And then I also was able to meet Charlie Duke. Now, Charlie Duke, he's only one of 12 men who walked on the moon. He was the youngest astronaut ever to walk on the moon, and he's only one of 4 still alive that walked on the moon. And he's a wonderful Christian man and does speaking. He became an on-fire Christian after the Apollo 16 mission. And then there was Colonel Jeff Williams, who I met, who's a retired astronaut. And he has more photographs in space than any other astronaut. And he's published them in a book. And he's a wonderful Christian involved in Christian ministry.
I do have to say that Ken is wanting people to register for this event, so do go online, just Google or whatever web search, Astronaut Encounter at the Ark, and you'll find that information.
So the guy who was stranded up in space, he's a strong Christian.
Yes.
All right.
And that was Ken Ham talking to The Stand Radio on AFR. You can find the podcast on afr.net.
All right, you're listening to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. So just to wrap this up on the Mars thing.
Here we go, folks.
I'm fascinated by this because Elon Musk is one of those people, and they're extremely rare, where you go, at least I do, when he says something that sounds outlandish, I still pay attention to it because he's accomplished outlandish things in his career.
Yes.
Okay, so and he's not one to. He deals in what he knows too, and so they do have a humanoid. The reason they call it by they, I'm talking about his company, which is Starlink. Is that not? His company's called anyway. Whatever his rocket company is called. What's it called? SpaceX, yeah. Anyway, they've developed this robot that looks like it's got 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, and a torso. I mean, it looks like a human.
Yeah.
That's why they call it so they developed this, and so they're that's who
that is cool.
Yeah. That's the robot they're going to send up in the ship going to Mars.
Yeah, and then what's going to happen is those robots that you just showed me the picture of, they're going to build a colony up there, and then in 25 years they will invade Earth.
They're not going to wait. They're not going to wait 25 years.
Yeah.
They're coming in 10 years.
Hey, they're going to send this in the end of 2026.
Well, look,
we'll see if that happens or not.
I am not a visionary. I'm the guy who would have told Christopher Columbus, "Don't even bother. You're never going to find a trade route."
It's a waste of time.
It's a waste of time.
Right.
Nobody's ever done it. No one's going to do it. So I'm sure Elon's not going to listen to the likes of me.
Right.
But I have read, because I do write a little bit of science fiction, and I have studied a lot of this. That doesn't make me an expert. I'm just saying the obstacles to overcome are serious and profound. But to your point, Tim, if anyone's going to pull it off, it's going to be Elon Musk. So I just say go for it.
The journey of 1,000,000 miles starts with
just one robot.
With just
right?
one robot. And
With
so
one robot.
got to keep that in mind.
With just one self-aware, sentient robot. As long as they don't bring back any, I'm not even going to get
what do you
started.
bring back? What?
Like if they find some eggs somewhere, I'm just going to
leave the eggs.
Leave the eggs.
I saw that movie once with Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought y'all were going though.
And that was a humanoid robot
Yes,
that she hated.
that is
by the
exactly
way.
right.
They're going Jurassic Park on me there. No, you're going
Alien.
Ghostbusters.
Alien
Yeah.
movie.
Alien. Alien. Okay.
I can sympathize and relate to you not being a visionary because many years ago when PapaJohns.com started telling people, hey, get online and order your pizza. I was like, that is the dumbest thing in the world. If you're holding your phone in your hand, just call the pizza guy.
Yes.
And now we order ahead on the app so that way we don't have to, it's just all kinds of things. I was clearly not in that boat.
Yeah. Yeah. The forward thinkers and
they're rare. And they're rare for a reason.
Yeah. All right, next story, Chris.
I did look it up a minute ago. If anybody's curious, Mars is only 137.72 million miles away from Earth.
Okay, so
just a short trip.
1,000,000 miles was just a simple metaphor.
And nowhere to pull over.
That's right.
Yeah.
If you want to stretch your legs.
So turn right at the Dollar General. Don't turn left, or you will make a big
Well,
mistake.
and one of the things we saw, Chris, look up how long it would take to get for humans to get to Mars. Okay, but here's
I don't think humans is go. Humans aren't going.
Well, that absolutely is Elon Musk's idea.
Yeah.
Is ultimately to get humans to Mars and to establish a colony. But the point I want to make before you give the answer to that question, Chris, is that the 9 months that those two astronauts were stuck in space, they talked about how not having that gravity here on Earth can be bad for your bones. I mean, there are biological issues that develop on a long journey for humans to Mars. So what would you find out?
All right, so I do a web search. How long would it take for humans to get to Mars? And artificial intelligence is telling me that a one-way trip to Mars could take astronauts anywhere from 7 to 10 months, depending on the trajectory and propulsion methods used. A round trip, including time on the Martian surface and the return journey to Earth, could take between 2 and 3 years.
Okay, that's quicker than I thought.
I thought so too.
I'll be honest.
I've always envisioned like it's up there for like 2 years, and you hop out of the spaceship and you got like a big beard. You know?
All right, so
nobody's signing up for that.
No,
somebody will.
Yeah, if they get, I think what Elon Musk is thinking is that you get robots. You could have robots.
Yes.
Set up living quarters and water. Something to maybe extract water. Those kinds of things.
How in the world would you control robots
before people get there
from Earth on Mars?
Well, you have to program them to do certain tasks.
I can do that. Yeah, I can do the programming to do certain tasks. It's just their attitude. You have to deal, you know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, you can. That make work even for robots. They don't appreciate that.
Or they just don't listen to you.
40 and 50 years ago, it was not uncommon where you saw something advertised on television with so-called space-age technology.
Yeah.
like now we're going to see Mars-age technology and whatnot.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see whether it happens. I mean, the 2026 is a year and a half from now. He's saying that they're going to launch a robot to Mars.
Well, and it looked like from the picture you had, those robots are already created.
Yeah. That's right. You can look it up.
Where was this article?
I found it on Fox.
All right. Well,
Fox
maybe
News.
we can post that so folks can take a look at the.
Meanwhile,
the
back here on Earth, Brian Kemp, the governor of
Yes.
Georgia, has decided not to run for Senate, which is a big blow to the Republican
I'll post
Party.
the link for you.
And let me tell you here, this Mars thing, you get Brian Kemp on Mars.
Well, that's what he said. He said, instead of running for Senate, I would rather go to Mars.
Hey, no joke. This may be
And
something
so-
that Brian and Stacy might agree on because she's a big Star Trek fan.
She
Stacey
is?
Abrams. Yeah.
I don't think it's necessary to make fun of her.
No. I'm saying she might be into,
Oh, you said she was a big.
She's a big Star
Wars.
Whoa.
Never mind. I misunderstood.
She's a Trekkie, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, okay.
Trekkie, okay, which is Star Trek fan.
Yes.
Listen, so were you aware of that situation over in Georgia, Ray?
Yeah, I was reading about it. So Brian Kemp was going to win, right?
He's two-time governor,
right? And very popular,
Yeah.
And he and Trump, they had a falling out. Then they patched it back up, and I think Trump wanted him to run. So some people say he's not going to run for the Senate because he wants to make a run for the White House in 28. Who knows?
Oh, is that right? Is that what this?
That's what people are saying.
Okay. Well,
okay.
First man since Carter from Georgia, if he were to win.
So who's the best candidate if he's not going to?
Okay, so Georgia has always been a conservative state, and statewide Republicans have always done well since the 70s. So maybe 80s since Reagan, but now the Democrat Party has won 2 statewide elections for the Senate. Seats. They narrowly beat the Republican candidates, but they still did do that. But I think it's Republicans for the taking if they have a halfway decent candidate. And Brian Kemp certainly was more than halfway decent. He was a twice elected governor and a popular governor of the state of Georgia, and he probably would have been favored to win that Senate seat against what's the fellow's name here?
John Ossoff.
Yeah. Who's the Democrat over there. So I don't know. You're right to your point. I don't know enough about I'll find out and ask some friends about who in Georgia would be next up for Senate.
The name that was kicked around in one story I read was Marjorie Taylor Greene, but she does not poll well against
statewide. She's a congresswoman from a certain part of Georgia.
Right. But now but Kemp did poll well against Ossoff, and but Marjorie Taylor Greene did not. So I'm not sure what Republican would have a good chance.
That's an important state. Every state's important, but that's an important race because that's one of those where you go, if the Republicans don't get the Senate seat back, you're like going, that's an upset because that is basically a red state, despite the fact that Atlanta has taken in so many people from around the country and internationally that it's made Georgia a purple state in statewide elections.
Right.
So, all right, you're listening to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Well, there's the music, and Chris, thank you for your contributions.
Thank you.
Ed, Ray, and yours truly will be back with Steve Paisley Jordahl in just a few minutes here on today's issues for this Tuesday, May the 6th.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
The enemy has pulled out all the stops to try to destroy the family for a very long time. That's why the American Family Association stands boldly in the gap to protect and strengthen this God-breathed institution. Visit AFA.net today and discover the resources available for you and your family. And if you would, please take a minute to show your support. That's AFA.net.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. Israel launching strikes in Yemen after a Houthi missile landed near an airport in Tel Aviv. State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce discusses the strikes.
Israel, one of our, if not most staunch allies, that we stand with them. We, of course, after the October 7th massacre, they have every right, as they always do, to defend themselves. And defending themselves against Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis is part of that mechanism.
A court hearing for the man accused in a deadly attack on a sheriff's deputy in Cincinnati.
In Hamilton County Court in Cincinnati.
Is there a plea this morning? There's a plea of not guilty, Your Honor.
Rodney Hinton Jr.'s lawyers argue he wasn't in the right frame of mind when he used his car to hit and kill Deputy Larry Henderson Friday, just after Hinton viewed police body cam video and the deadly officer-involved shooting of Hinton's son a day earlier. 18-year-old Ryan Hinton was pulled over in a stolen car last Thursday, took off on foot with a gun in his hand. His father, for his alleged actions, now charged with aggravated murder. The judge ruling.
There will be an order of remand with no bond.
Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
A House Appropriations Subcommittee holding an oversight hearing on the Treasury Department with Secretary Scott Bessent this morning. Secretary Bessent testifying to the committee, the department has been looking to reduce costs at the IRS in an effort to help save taxpayer money and make the government more efficient. He says one area they've been looking at specifically is paper processing.
Last year, the IRS spent approximately $450 million on paper processing, with nearly 6,500 full-time staff dedicated to the task. Through policy changes and automation, Treasury aims to reduce this expense to under $20 million by the end of President Trump's second term.
Vice President J.D. Vance has said that the only leader the Democrats have is Donald Trump because they are obsessed with everything he does. National Review reporter and Fox News contributor Caroline Downey says Democrats are in full self-destruct mode.
The Democrats' problem is that they view coalition building as heresy. When a party loses independents, swing voters, and the working class, their instinct should be to try to win back those voters, not to purge the moderates from the primaries, as David Hogg recommends, not to burn the middle to save the far left flank, and not to pitch revolutionary socialism as AOC and Bernie Sanders fly around the country on private jets, decrying oligarchy, while they themselves become parodies of their own populism. And instead of taking pitchforks to the old guard of the Democratic Party, these people should really have a reality check. Are Eat the Rich and men and women's sports on the social issue side, are those hills that they really want to die on? Do they think they have national appeal? Spoiler alert, they do not.
A pro-family leader and conservative activist says it is interesting that evangelical non-denominational churches are gaining membership while other groups are losing people.
Robert Knott is a columnist for the Washington Times. His latest column is entitled Rise of Spirituality Without Religion in Modern America, the Siren Song of the Paranormal. Knight says he wrote the column in the wake of the recent death of Pope Francis, which has prompted much talk about spiritual matters.
We're looking at spiritual things because the cardinals in Rome are voting on a new pope soon, and people are wondering whether it'll be another Francis who put left-wing politics in the forefront, or John Paul II, who seemed to be a more reliable leader of the Catholic people around the world, who are more than 1 billion.
And Knight says they've had some recent surveys that are very interesting.
The mainline Protestant denominations are losing people. The Catholic Church has actually lost some people in America, but the evangelical non-denominational churches are gaining. They're the only church-going group that's actually gaining adherents in the country.
But Knight says there is also a rise in spiritual interest across the board.
Some of it's going toward the paranormal and the occult, unfortunately, and the whole New Age phenomenon where you become your own God, basically. But a lot of young people are showing an interest in the Bible and Christianity and Jesus in particular.
I'm Chad Groening.
For American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh.
In Denver, Colorado, Jamie Sanchez obeyed the Lord's call and opened the Drip Cafe to create jobs to help unhoused people get back on their feet. Of course, the LGBTQ community began persecuting him for his Christian beliefs. His inspiring story of standing boldly for God's truth in the face of great opposition is part of our Impact series, and we'll send you the DVD as our thanks for your gift to AFA. Visit afa.net/spiritualwar. afa.net/spiritualwar.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network this Tuesday, May the 6th. I'm Tim Wildman with Ed Vitagliano and Ray Pritchard, raised in Kansas City. We be in Tupelo. And Steve Paisley, Jordahl.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning,
hey, Ray,
Steve.
I hadn't seen you yet today. You look healthy
I'm
and well.
pretty good. How are you doing?
Good. I'm doing well. Got a lot of
Rocking
sleep
and
last
rolling.
night, so yeah, it's all good.
What's going on in your world, Steve?
Well, I heard you guys talking this last session, half hour and everything about Mars, right?
Yes.
So I wanted to double check your math, so about how long it would take to get there. So I did. I chose to look it up on Google Maps. So I looked it up on Google Maps.
There
which
you go.
Surprisingly, said you can't drive there.
Yes.
Right. So I looked up walking directions. It would take an estimated 3,539 years to walk the 137 million miles to Mars, but you probably want to double that because that assumes you're walking 24 hours a day.
Yeah, that you can't do that.
That's very helpful information.
I just doing my part.
That's right. And another 3,700 years to get back, I guess. If you didn't like
that's one way.
Well, it
if it
depends how
didn't
many
work
times
out.
you stop, too. You know?
Well, then you.
If my wife
plus
is
you got this
along
whole.
with me, I have to stop
You're stopping all the time.
all
right?
the time.
You got this whole defying gravity thing you
Yeah.
have to deal with before ever leaving the Earth's atmosphere.
Right.
Let Elon figure that out, right?
Right. I mean, that can be very frustrating.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm
you
saying?
can't overcome gravity.
Yeah, I've
That's
tried.
happened to me many times.
Yeah.
You're not
And
going
guess-
to make it.
Guess what? Gravity's won every time.
Gravity.
The only human to ever defy gravity was Michael Jordan.
That?
And only
Besides the Lord himself.
Yes.
I'm
Right.
talking about.
Apparently, there was some Wizard of Oz witch in the what's the new movie out? The Wizard of Oz, the
Wicked.
Well, we didn't go see it.
Wicked.
There was they defy gravity. There's a song about it.
I've never.
Well, you know, that's
I'm not-
just.
Did you go see it?
No.
Okay. I was going to say, I'm
They
not going
have
to go
that
see a movie.
tornado.
If it's named Wicked,
Right?
I'm not even going.
I'm not even asking the Lord.
And I'm not even.
I'm
So
not
you don't want to be in that theater when the Lord comes back, right?
Absolutely not.
No need to pray over that one.
So let me get
Well,
this
Ed didn't
straight.
make the rapture. Why not? He was in the Word. He was watching Wicked
He was watching Wicked.
when the rapture occurred.
Oh, my
He
goodness.
got left behind.
Didn't
Yeah,
Lot,
absolutely left
didn't
behind.
Lot run into something like that too? I think.
Yeah. His wife, his
just
wife
stop.
got turned to a pillar of
Well,
salt.
just saying.
she was assaulted.
Just saying, people.
Yeah, if you go see it,
We better move on.
Yeah.
I would say we move on right here.
Ed, you're asking me if you can go see a movie called Wicked. Okay, how
And
about
we're
you go
not talking
see,
to Boston
That's
like
right.
like clam chowder. This
It's
clam
wicked
chowder is
awesome.
wicked.
Maybe
right.
you should go see the movie No Way.
All right.
Anyway.
So no. Anyway. So
That was our movie review for the day.
There you
Yes.
there you go.
Today's
Brought to you by
movie
Siskel and Ebert.
review.
All right, hey, so you guys have probably seen the left is blowing up over the fact that Donald Trump, the White House anyway, posted a meme of Donald Trump as the Pope, and now
Ed says that was inappropriate.
yes,
I thought it. I thought it was not a wise.
well,
But I'm about to get rebuked, aren't I,
you're-
by the president?
You're welcome to have your own opinion about it. I just find it fascinating that all of a sudden the White House, the Democrats, which are stringently pro-abortion and not all that godly, all of a sudden they're defending Catholicism like as if they're like traditional Catholics. But anyway, a reporter did ask the president about who is right now meeting with Canadian Prime Minister at the White House. And they asked him, this was yesterday, about this meme, and this was his response. Cut 10.
Catholics were not so happy about the image of you looking like the Pope.
Oh, I see. You mean they can't take a joke? You don't mean the Catholics. You mean the fake news media. Not the Catholics loved it. I had nothing to do with it. Somebody made up a picture of me dressed like the Pope, and they put it out on the Internet. That's not me that did it. I have no idea where it came from. Maybe it was AI. but I know nothing about it. I just saw it last evening. Actually, my wife thought it was cute. She said, "Isn't that nice?"
My question about
Actually, I would not be able to be married, though. That would be a lot. I'd have to the best of my knowledge, popes aren't big on getting married, are they? Not that we know of. No. I think it's the fake news media that, they're fakers.
My question, though, sir, was about the fact that it was put out on the White House account. Even though it was AI generated, it was a joke, it was a meme. Does it at all diminish the substance of the official White House account to have it go out on that particular channel?
Give me a break. It was just somebody did it in fun. It's fine. Have to have a little fun, don't you?
Ed, you're against fun, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you didn't like it.
I wish I could do a really good Trump imitation, because that was funny. He says, Catholics loved it. Just.
And popes can't be married?
He said he couldn't be married if you were pope. Clergy. As far as he knows, he couldn't be married.
My favorite part of that, though, was it might have been AI. I don't remember posing in the Trump suit, but maybe it was AI.
Maybe it was AI. No, listen, I thought it was I thought it was inappropriate because Pope Francis just died, and they are looking to get another pope. But I'm not going to lose sleep over it. The president obviously thinks it's just a joke. We just have a difference of opinion.
You mean he's not really running for pope? I mean,
well, according to him, he is.
Yeah, I didn't talk to any Catholics about that. I don't know.
I heard some. I heard some chime in, and they weren't that upset.
Yeah. So that kind of thing goes on. I think we're pretty seared.
Yeah.
To those kind of, what do you call them, memes or whatever like that?
Yeah, memes. I remember someone sending me, this was back 10 years ago.
Now, if you'd have put him up on the cross or something like that.
Absolutely.
That would have been sacrilege. That would have been blasphemous and sacrilegious. And I'm sure even President Trump would have condemned that.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I hope so. No, and my face appeared in the Batman costume. Now, I liked that. I saved that one. Someone here at work did it. There was one of the Batman movies had come out, and there was my face.
I think they were the subtle way of telling you they wish you wore a mask. Cover up the face a little bit.
That could be.
That was the day you wore the Batman costume to work.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you stood out in line. No,
maybe it was AI. I don't know. Maybe I dressed up.
That's when you said, I'm going to stand in line for tickets with my costume.
No, I'm not. I'm not that far gone. You'd be waiting 2 days,
like
sleeping
people
outside.
do for concert tickets, or when a superhero movie's coming out, and people dress like the characters.
I've embarrassed my family plenty, but I've never done that.
What worried me is when you got up on the roof, said you're going to jump off, but we talked you out of that at least.
Yeah.
All right, next story.
Let's move on.
Yeah, moving on, moving right along.
I'm uncomfortable with all the attention being focused on me.
I got some good news for y'all. This is kind of a cool story. There's a woman named Emma Dimery. Emma Dimery was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. And anybody who knows anything about cancer, colon cancer is one of the hardest cancers to hit. And
to be cured of.
Yeah. And so when she was 23, she was diagnosed. They found a softball sized tumor and another golf ball sized tumor. And she had multiple surgeries. She had chemotherapy. She had radiation and the whole cocktail of everything she had. Nothing helped. She was given another couple of years at the most to live. And then she tried a new therapy. University of Minnesota was doing a trial. And it was basically a gene therapy. The researchers are calling it the next frontier of immunotherapy. And they say why most of those are targeting the outside of the cells, they've found a way to target the inside of the cells. So what they did is the cells were retrieved from the cancer. They were altered in a lab using a CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing technology. CRISPR is the way that they
I know what it is.
They splice. Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead.
So they spliced the gene to make it more effective at hitting the tumor, at getting a tumor. And they put the spliced genes back in her body. It attacked the tumor, and she is now cancer-free.
We talked about this in our story meeting this morning. That was kind of mind-blowing. Now, how about the other people in the trial? Because there was a limited number of people in this trial. Like
all we know is
17 or
12 patients in 12? The trial. And Demery by far had the best results. So not all of them. I don't know. It doesn't list.
Right.
I didn't list if it's a 9-page.
And the fact that she's cancer-free is being attributed to this gene therapy.
Yeah. Now, when you get to human trials on something like this with 12 humans, that I believe is the first. You have to start with the chemical concept, and you start it, and then you go to animals and everything. By the time that all gets refined to the point where it looks like it's going to work, then you try it on a small number of humans, 12 in
unless
this case.
it's a vaccine.
Oh, right. Unless it's a vaccine.
I'm sorry.
COVID vaccine.
Did I say that out loud?
You put it on millions. But they're getting this thing dialed in, I think, to the point where this could be a very effective treatment of cancer that's very hard to get.
Well, listen, the colonoscopies.
Colonoscopy.
That's saved probably millions of people's lives.
Yes. It's a screening.
I've had it.
Advance.
Many people listening have had it. You've had it, right?
I've had it because my mom died of colon cancer. So my sisters and I have, very early on, we started getting colonoscopies on a more earlier and a more frequent basis than most people. Most people need to get one at.
Why, is it hereditary?
Yeah, it can be. It's genetic, and so,
genetic. I mean,
yeah.
Well, if not everything goes well, I have some scientists at the University of Minnesota I'd like to introduce you to. So.
Yeah. Well, I go like every 3 years. So,
Ray, you've had that colonoscopy?
What? Colon? Yes. Oh, 6 or 7 times because they always find
because you find it so enjoyable.
Well, you know what? You do. Well, we all know what you have to do to get ready to go to the doctor there, but you know it's a miracle. It's a modern day miracle of medicine that they can do that and prevent people from getting colon cancer. Because when I first went about 8 years ago or so, they found like 3 polyps or something like. That's what they call them, the doctors.
Right.
Which I don't know if they're precancerous or I don't know what, or potentially, but that's the reason they go. They get rid of those.
Yes.
And then they set you up for, 5 years or I think it's 5 years or 3 years, depending on.
You're probably 5 years every 5 years.
So I got to go back next year, something like that. But yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is everybody needs to do that.
Yeah, over age 50, I think, is when they recommend.
Over age 50.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody needs to do that because not every kind of cancer you can, you can screen for. Or you can, but there are some, like colon cancer.
And that's not the same as, like, they do have these whole body scans and things like that. But I think you are exposing your body to radiation or whatever they use.
Some of them.
Yeah. But this is not that. This is a camera, okay? So your body is not being exposed to high doses of this, that, or the other. It's not pleasant to prepare for it, but the 20 minutes sleep is probably the best you'll get in about in 2 years.
That takes about 2 seconds to take effect.
Right.
What is that? Some kind of, what is that, Ray? Some kind of gas they give you there.
Or they give you a little shot, through and it goes into your system, and the next thing you know,
you don't even know.
You up.
They say count backwards from 100, and you make it to like 97.
Yeah, you're gone,
and then you are gone.
Yeah,
take
some of that home with you.
It's listen,
if you need sleep.
Let me just add a word here because all of us, it's circling back around, Steve, to your story. I'm coming up on the 1 year anniversary of my cancer treatments, and I think about this. You think about it every day, right? You think every single day. All of us know people. All of us.
Cancer's everywhere.
Yeah. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. We're living in days of absolute miracles.
Yeah.
That they can do things now that 100 years ago, 50 years ago, no, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, we couldn't dream of. And to imagine, Steve, that these doctors have figured out a way to get inside those cancer cells. It's just fantastic, and we ought we ought to be very grateful. Very grateful for things like this, and we pray for, colon cancer is one of the toughest ones. Liver cancer, very tough.
Right. Pancreatic,
very tough. But they're making progress. The mapping of the human genome has opened up the human cell, and we're living in. And for some of my friends, I'm thinking of one person right now who's struggling with kidney cancer, but he survived for 10 years. And I'm praying for, he's a very dear and very close friend. I'm praying for him. Hold on, because the genetic cavalry is coming your direction.
There you go.
Hold on, because it's coming.
Yeah. It's interesting. There's two different kinds of responses when this happens. People that
when what happens?
When you get a scientific breakthrough like this, if you get something like this, it's either, oh, look, we are solving all the problems of science, and look how good we are. Who needs God? Or you delve in further and you see the amazing engineering that you have to tweak to make it done. How could it be anything but God?
Yeah.
And it increases your faith in a God that is allowing us to progress. I don't know what the Tower of Babel was all about, how technological or what they did. It was just a pride thing that God had to say that's enough and no further, or else they'll reach heaven. But technologically, we are rocketing through. AI is going to be huge in this area. Yeah. AI with all these kind of different diseases, it's already making a huge impact on medicine.
You think that I say cancer's everywhere? Maybe it's just because I'm getting older.
But it is, Tim. It is.
Don't you? Because you're reading these stories about people in their 20s and 30s.
They call them turbo cancers.
Well, a lot of that
out of nowhere and
might have been introduced by the vaccine. There's a lot of information, a lot of data that says that the vaccine did us no favors when it comes to those type of cancers. The COVID vaccine.
And to your point, and we'll find out probably within 5 years a lot about that, that tie-in to what people are saying about cancers and long COVID and all those kinds of things, because those secrets are going to be unlocked.
Yeah.
Someone's going to talk. China I saw something posted that China was now claiming that COVID originated in the United States, which I don't believe.
Area 51.
Yeah,
right.
That's what they're saying.
Is it they're saying
China,
that?
yes, yeah.
Area 51?
51, yeah.
So we're going to find out a lot about those kinds of things. But to your point, I do hear about a lot of those kind of cancers affecting young people and extraordinarily, unexpectedly high numbers. Yeah. So,
well, and to go to the point was raised, are we playing God? Well, who gave the doctors up in Minnesota the wisdom? God did.
Yeah.
Who gave them the insight? God did. I'll tell you, the best doctors I know believe in God. The best researchers I know believe in God. The best scientists are actually the ones who are most humble, who pray and say, Lord, give us insight to answer these great questions.
I mean, nobody claimed that engineers were playing God when they figured out about sewage being removed from the living environment so that people don't get, infected with, bacterial diseases. I mean, is that playing God? Because for thousands of years, human beings lived in close proximity with their own waste.
Yes.
Until scientists figured out these carry germs and shorten your lifspan.
Right.
That's not playing God. I mean, refrigeration for food.
Was that Lister? Wasn't that his name?
Right.
Where we get Listerine from? The word Listerine.
Right.
Lister.
Could be.
Wasn't he the one who discovered germs and the effect?
I don't know. You're talking about? Yeah, I'm not sure. That could.
I think that's right, Tim. I think you're right. I can't think of his first name. Steve, get on that.
I'm on it.
But we don't. I mean, we refrigerate food now to keep it from spoiling, so it doesn't make us sick. That's not playing God. Nobody ever says that when we talk about those kinds of.
Is it playing God to try to fly to Mars? No. Who gave you the wisdom, the creativity, the insight to think of that? God did. It ought to lead you back to God, not away from Him.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the discoverer of the germs, but Louis Pasteur is credited with discovering the germ theory in the 1860s.
Anybody can do that. I'm talking about I'm talking about discovering the actual germs. Because anybody can have a theory. Look up.
All right.
Well, no,
Joseph Lister. Joseph Lister was a prominent British surgeon and medical scientist who lived from 1827 to 1912. He is best known for pioneering antiseptic surgery, which significantly reduced the mortality rates of surgical operations by introducing carbolic acid as a sterilizer for surgical instruments and patients' skin. This is an AI-generated answer, by the way. And it does list sources like the Science Museum and
that
so
sounds right.
forth.
That sounds right.
So that's fascinating.
Lister.
Yeah.
But I think that's where we get Listerine from.
That's probably
an
true.
antiseptic, yeah.
But I was just kidding about Louis Pasteur. He discovered he had the germ. He was the first one who. When did he live, by the way?
He was born in 1822 and died in 1895.
Okay. But I mean, he's the one. You said he's credited with what now?
The germ theory,
discovery of the germ theory in 1860s. So that would be probably the more scientific medical discovery, maybe.
Well, when did Joseph Lister live?
It was
he lived 1827 to 1912.
So
that was a pretty good century.
Yeah, it was.
He's born about the same time and lived a little longer,
except for the Civil War.
Yes, yeah, except for that.
Except for a few things like that.
That's right.
All right.
Oh,
you're listening to today's issues on American Family Radio. How did we get on this story? Anyway, what do you got left there?
Let me just
the cancer story. That's how we got on.
This is kind of important. Things are popping off in the Middle East right now. Israel has been bombing the airport in
Gaza?
Well, no, in Yemen, the Sana'a airport in Yemen. Yesterday, I believe it was, the Houthis, they believe, threw a missile at Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv, and it barely missed the airport. But it was thought to have originated from the Houthis in Yemen, and so Israel didn't miss. They went back and got the airport there. This is at the same time that Benjamin Netanyahu has decided or has given the plan that the Israelis are going in, and the word that they're using is conquer Gaza. They're going to go in and occupy Gaza and stay. They're not going in and out.
But it's their country.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I say
occupy
occupy.
your own country.
I say occupy is the wrong word, but they're going to go in and they're going to set up.
They gave Gaza to the Palestinian people to self-govern, and as long as they didn't commit acts of violence against Israelis, well, they did on October the 7th, or was it 7th?
And the years leading up to it too, by the way.
We know what happened there. 1,200 people died.
So the Houthis thought it was a good idea to launch a missile at Ben Gurion Airport.
Yeah, they're idiots.
Who walks up to Mike Tyson and
takes
a swing at him?
No.
But also, our warships out there are fighting them too. In the Gulf, is it the
Red Sea?
Red Sea.
The Red Sea.
And that strip, we don't have time to go into this. So that strip of water there is so narrow.
Yeah.
If you call water a strip, that leads to the Suez Canal, which is a major canal.
So important.
It's like the Panama Canal on the other side of the world. That a lot of our merchant ships go through there, and the Houthis have been attacking them.
Right.
All right, we'll see you back here tomorrow, everybody. Have a great day. Keep listening to American Family Radio.
And my father, your great-grandfather, fought in World War II.
Really?
He was a gunner on the big ship out in the Pacific Ocean.
Wow.
Your great-grandmother did her part, too.
Was she on a ship?
Oh, no. She stayed back home